Okay, so hello friends, mm, welcome to my YouTube channel. Uh, Today's topic is uh, not persistent storage. Other containers are not persistent storage. What is meaning by this statement? That once you delete your container, okay, the storage means the data inside that container will also be deleted. Okay, so you may require that data for your future use. Okay, so for that purpose you need to store, means you can store the data in the form of volume also. So along with the container, okay, inside storage will also be lost. Okay, along with the container, storage will also be lost. Okay, deleted, let's say. Okay, so whatever the default action inside the container, okay, the default action is inside the container. Okay, so we will just create now one. We'll just see this in the form of practical. Okay, uh, I have already created one EC2 instance. Okay, we'll just log in into that and we'll try to create the Docker volume. Okay, okay, so first I have to install Docker. Okay, Docker hyphen y. Okay, so let's start the Docker. Docker has been installed. Docker, okay, sudo systemctl, right? Systemctl start the Docker. Okay, just check in the status. Okay, so it is up and running. Fine. Your Docker is installed. Okay. Let's create one Docker volume. Docker volume. Create. Let's say give it a name volume one. Okay. So okay. So your volume has been created. Okay. Let's check where it is created. Okay. Let's check. Okay. So we will not be seeing here, but it will use the storage of the host. Okay. So for in our case, the host is our EC2 instance, right? Let's check where we can see Docker volume ls. Okay, so we can see here this volume one has been created on top of the Docker. Okay, so you can also check the additional details for this Docker through this command docker inspect. Okay, docker inspect volume and give your volume name volume one, right? So these are the additional details for the volume. Okay, name, mount point, docker where lib docker volumes. Okay, so to check we can see that their mount part is mount path is where lib docker volume. So this is the default path where the your docker volumes will be stored. Okay, so we can see here the path. Okay, so let's go this path and check where cd where lib docker and volumes. Okay, so here we can see the volume created. Yeah, this is the where. Okay, this is where it has been created, volume 1. Okay, so let's say if you have created one file. Okay, let's say if you have created one file in the volume 1 like uh, cat, let's say 14 May. Okay, let's write hello, good morning. Okay, and save. Okay, so this file we have created in the volume. Okay, volume 1. Okay, so we should have created in the volume 1. Okay, okay, let's take 14. Okay, so we have created one file in the volume. Okay, just check. Yeah, we can see that file. Get 14. Yeah, we can see the content. Okay, right. So we want to create one Docker application. Okay, Docker container with this file. Okay, so we can also give this in the form of volume. Okay, so how can you create that? Okay, so we can directly run now. We have all means we can run the container directly from the Ubuntu image, right? We have already seen that. Okay, so let's create one container with the volume. Okay, with the volume. Okay, so we can run command like docker run. We have already seen this. So there is no need of directly, means I am directly running, means this command will fetch the Docker image from the Docker Hub and it will create the container from it. Okay, so two operations performing in the single command. Okay, hyphen it is for interaction. Okay, and giving a name container one. Okay, container one hyphen v for volume. Okay, we have created volume one, right? Volume one. Give your image name like say Ubuntu. So here is it is downloading. Okay, it is pulling from the local library. Okay, first it will check and then it will take the, if it is not there then it will take from the Docker Hub. We have already seen this, right? So we have already logged into the container, right? So we can check here the listing of files ls. Okay, so we can see that this container has been created with the volume 1, right? We can see. So we can see whether our file which has been created earlier it is exist or not. Okay, okay, ls. Okay, so let's create one file over there. That file is not there. So cat my container file stored. Okay, okay. So I have created this file. Okay, in the container. Okay, so what happens is if we have deleted this file, no? Okay, so if we have deleted this file, oh sorry, if we also deleted this container, okay, then this this file, okay, this file will be stored on the host storage, that is in the this EC2 instance storage, right? So even if you delete your container, your data will not be lost. Okay, so this is the main purpose for the Docker volumes. Okay, so uh, we'll try to delete this container, okay, and check if we can access our uh, if we can access from if we can access the that file, right? Okay, just a minute. Okay, so Docker PS will show the running containers. Okay, we need to go out of this container, exit, and see Docker PS. Okay, okay. So we'll first enter into the that container Docker exec. Docker exec hyphen it container ID and bin bash. Okay, so let's create one more container, container 2. Okay, so container 2 is created. Okay, and here we can see our volume 1 is also created, and just check the data whether it is been there or not. th. Okay, so our file is there, right? Example file content is also there. Okay, so we'll just come out of this container. Okay, how to end out of this container? Control P plus Q. Okay, so you are out from this container. Yeah, we can see the our container is created, right? The container 2. So we have created this volume inside the container, right? We have run this container along with the volume. Okay, so this volume has been stored on the EC2 instance disk. Okay, that is the host disk. Say so, even if it is deleted your container, your storage will not be deleted. Okay, so let's delete this container. Okay, uh, okay, so Docker, just a minute. Okay, so we'll kill the that container which is just created. Okay, so we have killed the container. Okay, it is been deleted. Okay, so our container is deleted, that is fine, but whether the data stored in the container is still exists, we can check, right? So we can check in the where is the default path, cd where lib docker. Okay, so where is our where lib docker and volumes, right? cd. Okay, you need to enter the root, right? sudo su hyphen cd where lib docker and then volumes, right? Here you can see your file. See, your volume is created. Okay, volume 1, go to that volume, cd, and check. See, your file is there even if your container is deleted, right? Okay, so this- okay, so here is the file. Okay, I was worried where it was gone. Okay, so you can check in this data folder, right? See, so even if we have deleted our container, right? We have deleted our container here, where it is deleted, docker kill, right? But although we have deleted our container, the data remains there, okay, on the host OS, on the host storage, like C, yeah, right? So this is the benefit of the Docker volumes, right? You can store in your data, application data in the Docker volumes, even if you can delete your containers, okay? So moving on to the, let's move to the next topic. Our next topic is Docker Docker networking, right? Docker networks. Okay, so Docker networks. So Docker networks. So uh, basically there are three networks in the Docker. Okay, one is the default is the bridge. Okay, the default is the bridge network. Okay, and the second one is the host network. Okay, and the third one is the none network. Okay, so the default network is, okay, so the default network is the host. Okay, so Docker host network mode allows the container to share the network stack of the Docker host. Okay, so whatever the network stack of the Docker host is, it will be shared by the Docker container. Okay, this means that container will use the uh, container will use the host IP address. Okay, so first we will talk about the, that is bridge. Okay, first we will talk about the bridge, that is the uh, default one. Okay, so Docker provides a default bridge network. Okay, so this is the default one. Okay, this is the default. Okay, container connected to this network can communicate with each other using their IP address. Okay, so container in this, so container can access each other using their IP address. Okay, okay. So key features of the Docker bridge network is, it is the isolation. So containers on a bridge network, okay, are isolated from the host and other networks, which enhances the security. Okay, so in case of ours, our host is the test EC2. Okay, so test EC2, it will not use the test EC2 network, right? It will have the containers in the bridge networking will have own IP addresses. Okay, so they are isolated from the host and other networks. Okay, and the key feature of this Docker bridge is also the communication. Okay, containers connected to the same bridge network can communicate with each other using the container's name also. Okay, along with the container IPs, they can communicate with each other using the container names also. Okay, and container have a default gateway to the bridge network. Okay, allowing them to connect to external networks through the host. Okay, so you can connect to the outside world also through the bridge. Okay, bridge network. Okay, so let's see the bridge network. Okay, okay, just a minute. So I am checking one picture for you to understand briefly. Okay, just a minute. Docker host. Let's say Docker networks. Docker networks. Yeah, this one. Okay, let me where it is gone. Oh, so uh, okay, so you can see this. This is the bridge network. Okay, this is the none and this is the host. So what in this bridge network is, you can see that this is the Docker host. Okay, Docker host, and these containers created inside the Docker host. Okay, they can communicate. Okay, they have their own IP addresses. Okay, that has nothing to do with this Docker host networking. Okay, so they have their own networks. Okay, Docker host. Sorry, for bridge network. Okay, so they can communicate with each other using these IP addresses. Okay, and on other side, what you can see is the host. Okay, so Docker host is what Docker host is. You can means Docker host network mode allows the container to share the network stack of the Docker host. Okay, so we can see this container is directly bind on the Docker host on this 5000 port. Okay, so it will the container inside the Docker host will not have its own networking. It will have to use the host networking. Okay, so this means that the container will use the host IP address. Okay, and will not have its own separate network space namespace. Okay, when you run a container in a host network mode, it directly binds to the network's interfaces. Right? We can see here test container is directly bind on the uh, host network. Okay, the host network mode allows the container to share the network stack of the Docker host. This means that the container will use the host IP address. Okay, so this is about the Docker host network. Okay, and then there is a another network that is called none. Okay, so none means none. Okay, so in none network you will not have the any network. Okay, so so non-network in a Docker means that when you don't want any network, okay, when you don't want any network interface for your container, okay, so if you want to completely disable the networking on a container, you can use this none network flag, okay, when starting the container, okay. So this will remove the complexities for the container, okay. So they have their own benefits, right? Accordingly, you can use that one, okay. So let's move to the, okay, let's move to the practical for this Docker networking concept, okay. So all three networks are clear to you, right? How they are binding to the networking and in these three different networks, bridge, host, and okay. So we'll try to do the practical of the bridge network first, okay. So let's go to the bridge here, okay. So sudo c hyphen, right, okay. So I will create one image first, okay, Docker. So the default network is bridge, right? So we'll don't have to specify the bridge keyword while giving the container, while running the container, right? So hyphen dt hyphen name. I am creating container with some name, okay? Container. Let's say container 4. Name is container 4. Container 4. Let's say Ubuntu. So one container with the name container 4 is created, okay. Similarly, create one another container. We are talking about the bridge networking, okay, currently. So two containers are created. Check the networking for the this created container Docker network ls, okay. So here you can see these three networks, okay, bridge, host, and none, right? So we already told that the default network is the bridge one, okay. So we have created these two containers by default, right, by not giving the network, okay. So just check whether we can see the networking associated with that container. Docker, let's first check the Docker ps, okay, and then check Docker inspect for this container. Docker inspect container name. So let's check whether it is network ID. Let's say this is right. This is the network setting. You can see here the bridge keyword, right? So this proves that whenever you defaultly created your network along with your Docker container, it will take the bridge network. Oh, okay. So similarly for check for other container also, right? Right? Here you can see the bridge network. Okay. So default network is bridge. Okay. So let's and they can and these containers can communicate with each other using their IP address. We already seen this, right? So let's communicate them through the IP addresses. Okay. So when you will be ping from one container to the other container, okay. So you need to have some uh, let's say IP utils ping utility, right? So just a minute. Okay. So First, you will install the ping utility, right? Sudo apt. Okay, it will have to install inside the container. Okay, so first let's get inside the, okay, docker ps docker exec -it container a and bin bash. Okay, so you are inside the container. Okay, so we need to have the ping utility over here. We need to install the ping libraries. Okay, because ping command will not work here. Okay, this is the Ubuntu container, so you have to install the ping utility. Okay, so let's install the ping utility here, apt-get update -y. Okay, so it is installing the libraries. Now execute the command apt install ip utils ip utils hyphen ping. Okay, so this is, it is asking for the confirmation. I am installing the ip util facility. So the ip util facility has been installed in the one container. Similarly, let's get install it into the another container. Okay, sorry, it is been control p plus q. Okay, so we have come out of the container. Let's log into the another container. Okay, apt. Why you are using the apt here? Because apt package here, because we are using the Ubuntu container, right? So for updating the Ubuntu libraries, you need to get the apt libraries, right? So that is why. Okay, now just install the ip utils. Okay, okay. So check the network of this. Uh, okay, network of this. So first we'll have to check the network. What is the IP address of these containers are, right? So come out of this container. Okay, so docker ps. Okay, so how can we check the IP address of the container? Docker inspect, docker inspect, give the container ID. So here we can see the IP address. Okay, 170.17.03. Okay, so let's check for other. Docker inspect, copy. So this is the IP for the sorry, this is the IP for the another container. Okay, so copy this and log in into the first container, right? That is 33. Okay, so log in into the 33 container. Okay, so you are inside the 33 container and ping the IP. We have just copied from the second container. So see here you can be able to ping the other containers. Okay, so what we have seen over here in this. Okay, so see the containers, different containers in the bridge can communicate, right? We have already seen by this communicating with these the containers, right? By pinging the IP address of the containers. Okay, so this is about the bridge network, right? Okay, so bridge network. Okay, so and the next network is right. The next network is the host one, right? We'll see this host one, the host practical. Okay, so come out of this container. Is it control P plus Q, right? You have come out of the container. So now the host network, right? So we have already seen that Docker host is also as a Docker host networking. Is a networking mode in which Docker container share its network's namespace with its host machine, right? So in our case, our host machine is this EC2 host machine, right? This is the EC2, that is our host machine, and on top of this Docker we have installed, and on top of that we have uh, run the containers, right? So let's create one container. So if you see the IP address of this test instance, no, this is the public IP, okay. In the range, and this is the private IP 172.31. This is in this series of 172.31, right? So let's check with whether we can get the same network space when we create the container from the host type of networking. Okay, so let's create one container. Docker run hyphen detach terminal hyphen hyphen name. Okay, container name, container 6. Okay, and we are giving specifically here the network is network host, and let's say nginx image. Okay, so this is the syntax for the host networking. Okay, so we are running, means we are running this container. Okay, we are running this container from this image nginx with the network called host, right? So let's try to extract. Okay, so it is image is pulling from the Docker Hub, right? And it is completed. Okay, so our container has been created. So 6 seconds ago. Okay, so this is the our container nginx, right? Which has been created now. Container 6. So just inspect this container, and we can see what is the IP address of this container, right? And paste. So you can see that you cannot see any IP address here, right? Because it will share the network namespace of the host machine. what is the host machine here? This is the test is means this is the EC2 instance is the uh, host machine for your container. Okay, so your application, okay, so your application inside the container, okay, so your application inside the container, how it will be accessed? It will be accessed through the host IP address. Okay, so let's try to access it. Copy this host machine IP address, that is the public IP of the EC2 instance, and try to access the. Okay, so we have to give here the port also. Yeah, right. Here you can see we can access the nginx. Okay, so we have just created the nginx container. Okay, so we are accessing it using the public IP of the EC2 instance. Okay, by giving in the browser. So this is the host networking, right? We can see that this container is directly bind on this Docker host. Okay, and here is this command syntax. Okay, I don't know where it is here. So this is about the host networking. We have already seen the practical for this. Okay, and none means you cannot access the container inside the Docker host, right? So none network in Docker means you don't want any network interface for your container. If you want to completely disable the networking on a container, you can use the hyphen hyphen network flag when starting with the container. Okay, so if we give this the same image, right? We have already accessed the nginx image from the host machine's public IP address, right? This nginx, right? Now what we will do is we will change the network from the host to the none for the created container, right? So where we have given it, so now we'll Docker networks. Okay, no worries. We'll try to write new one Docker run hyphen dt hyphen hyphen name hyphen hyphen name container 8. Let's say container 8 and giving the network as none. Okay, in the network as giving the same nginx. Okay, so first just close this so that we can again access it. So your container is created, right? This container. So fourth container, right? Let's check whether you can access it from the host machine IP address or not. It should not be, but first we have to delete this, no? First we have to delete this because this container has been created with this host network, right? So first delete this because if you access that public IP address, that then it will be accessed through this container, container 6. So first delete this Docker, uh, Docker rm, Docker kill. Okay, Docker kill. Give this, copy and paste here the container ID. So we have killed the container which was created with the host networking. Just cross check. Yeah, we can see that it has been deleted. Now we try to access it from the public IP address of this host machine, whether you can access or not with this nginx image, right? Okay, see, now you are not, once I've refreshed the request, no, refresh the page, then request will again come to this web browser. So you can see that now you are not able to access that nginx image, right? Nginx page. Why? Because we have created this container with the network of none network, right? So that is why none network means none. It will not create any network interface for your container. Okay. So that is why the reason you are not able to access this nginx image now. Okay. So this is about the Docker networking. Okay. I hope it is clear to you. So thank you for your patience, and in the next session I will be coming with the new topic. Till then, goodbye and take care. Bye bye.